LS1 into an S13 240SX Coup. I have the sticky swap kit, hooker headers. This is going to be all the ins and outs of an LS swap. I'm going to kind of do an overview of what to and what not to do, and what are some tricks kind of behind getting a good LS swap going without having a bunch of problems, and getting this up and running and wired up. And I'm probably not, most people have been ordering the wiring specialties harness. I'm not going to go that route. Instead, I'm going to order HP tuners and some credits so I can do a little bit of tuning. Got everything unpackaged. So this is what I have for the LS1 swap. I have these Hooker Pro Comp headers. They're in black. I'll probably, once I weld some V-band flanges on the exhaust, once I weld some V-band flanges on the outlets, I will repaint them. And have the sticky engine mounts, transmission mount. I'm gonna get a different oil filter. I'm probably gonna sell this in the lines, and the pickup, the oil pan. I have a steel drive shaft, and this is actually just a wastegate that I have for my RB. I just kind of forgot it was in there. Yeah, so. Yeah, it has bolts, hardware, and yeah, everything looks good. Probably make a set of these out of solid aluminum. For right now, I'll run the polys, but I don't really like the feel of it. I would rather have something a lot more solid. I also. Oh, that looks pretty solid. Yeah, so start putting this stuff together. Do a little how-to. I'll bolt the headers up to the engine and everything, in the transmission of the engine, so I can make an exhaust. Put the engine mounts on. 3 bolts on each one. They're side oriented. You can't mess them up really. The bolts are from Sticky. They're included with the mounts. They're 17 millimeters, and I just did them the good German way, good and tight. It's always worked for me. If you want, I'm sure there's a torque spec, but I'm not too worried about it. So I'd torque them if I were you, unless you know what you're doing. So. Motor mounts are on. I'm going to throw the headers on, so I can get this thing ready to start doing the exhaust stuff, and get it in the car after I get the exhaust and everything. I still need to bolt the clutch on. Yeah, so, and wire it up. Wiring it up is going to be I think pretty easy. It doesn't look like too much. Coil packs on both sides, knock sensors, crank sensor. I have competition flywheel bolts for the LS1. I clean up the rear main seal housing, new gasket, clean up the bolts, new rear main seal. Both are Fel Pro. And then here's the Excetti twin plate clutch. that I'm going to put on it. Should be able to handle all the power. Cleaned up the back of the LS1 a little bit. It was pretty dirty, a lot of clutch dust and everything that gets in there, just from normal driving. And this thing only had supposedly it had 99,000 miles on it, so not too many miles. And so yeah, just gonna smash this thing kind of together and get it ready to drop in. Sticky lines for the clutch master cylinder. This one, you have to drive this pin out, and then the old one comes right out. You just pull it out after the pin comes all the way out, and then you stick the new one in and drive the pin in. This one is just a threaded fitting. You just unscrew the old bleeder assembly, screw that in, screw the new line on, and then you have your bleeder line and everything all good to go. So yeah, now I'm ready to bolt the transmission up to the engine and kind of stick it in the car and try to see where I'm at with exhaust and everything. So, and exhaust and wiring is what I'm really worried about next. And then I'll probably, once I'm done with that, I'll probably pull it back out and then go from there, make the exhaust and get everything ready to go. Next, you're going to tap the dipstick hole. You're going to use an 1/8 inch NTP tapered pipe tap, knock it in, and then you stake the pipe tap. Start it by hand, and then you use either a crescent wrench or whatever else you have and thread it in. Put in the little brass plug. Okay, start it by hand, and then you can use a 7mm to run the tap down. And you have a nice set of threads tapped. And then you put the oil pan baffle back on, cleaned up the nuts, and then you're going to put on the oil pickup next. Next is the oil pickup, the one from Sicky. Comes with a new O-ring. Make sure you don't leave the old O-ring on. Comes with a new O-ring. Make sure you don't leave the old O-ring on. And it just fits up in there. fits right up in here. See how there's no O-ring, and it fits right up in there, and you use this first bolt to use the first bolt to hold the dipstick on. So pull this nut off, or just leave that first one off on the passenger side, and then just bolt that single bolt in the dipstick and screw all the stuff back together. So you can see the new sticky pickup tube bolted in, and all the oil pan baffle nuts are nice and tight. So I'm going to install the oil pan and put the engine in. I cut off the ears off the transmission, and now I'm going to try another test fit, make sure nothing's hitting. So yeah, I cut these 2 ears off that you're supposed to cut off, and the one on this side right here that needs to get cut off. So yeah, I'm ready to get smashed in there. And got those, and the Sawzall and that nice radio up there, so that's how I cut those ears off, was with the Sawzall. Works great. Yeah, like I thought, the transmission mount directly bolted to the T56 gave me enough clearance, so I don't have to bash in the firewall or the trans tunnel, so I don't have to bash in the trans tunnel. The engine is chilling in there, so I need to put the radiator in, do some radiator hoses. There's my remote truss oil cooler and filter relocation bracket, or my oil cooler relocation block. And then yeah, so kind of moving along and kind of getting there. As you can see down here, I kind of made up some brackets for the oil cooler. So the oil cooler is all in there and nice. So I'm going to make some ducting for that. All right, YouTube. So kind of working on the LS1 swap. Kind of doing a little bit of wiring, figuring out where I'm going to put the mass airflow sensor and that kind of stuff. So kind of have all the wiring spread out, try to figure out where everything's going to go. I designed that bracket right here. It's uses the back Altair mounts, so it's the new Altair bracket, but then it goes down and it turns into the bracket that holds the oil filter relocation, the truss oil filter relocation, and oil cooler block. So yeah, then that's there, and it's nice and right below the it sits right below the Altair, and then the filter is easy to get to. Yeah, not a bunch of problems with worrying about oil getting all over the side of your engine, or all over the side of your nice engine bay. Well, right now this engine bay looks like shit because it's all stock painted and stuff, but yeah, I'm gonna after I get all this stuff mocked up and get it running and driving around, I'll just pull the engine back out, shoot it, and then I'm not sure what color I'm going to paint it, but I'll figure that out in a little bit. I was kind of thinking like maybe a silver with like a flake or something. So yeah, this kind of looks like a disaster in here, all this stuff. This is actually going to be a lot smaller. All these wires right here in this pile right here are all for the OEM fog light circuit. So I'm gonna modify it, but I'm going to keep it because I want my Sylvia fog lights to work correctly how they're supposed to. But so yeah, here's all the wires I have so far right here. These are wires that I'm going to keep running them under the channel. I'm going to put a plug here so I don't have to pull the whole dash harness through this slot. And then I'm running my wires like normal, but I'm running them up through here. If someone has a seatbelt hole or the stock seatbelt, they'll still run through here. But then I'm going to make a fuse panel and have all my fuses right here. See this fuse, and then have all the fuses right there, and all the modules that I could stick that used to be in the engine bay right there to kind of clean stuff up. So those are as many wires so far that I have. I don't have too many more left to do. I'm keeping the radio and everything in here, so I have some tunes, and then here's a T56 transmission. That's kind of mad at me because so here's a T56 transmission that's right there, and yeah, I need a short shifter for it, but